In the dim glow of Galactic Surveillance Station Delta, X0-99, just beyond Saturn's rings, a collection of alien species watched Earth like disappointed parents monitoring an unsupervised toddler with access to explosives. Dozens of holographic screens flickered, some showing humans jousting with shopping carts in a Walmart parking lot, others displaying synchronized pool noodle fights in suburban cul-de-sacs. A toddler screamed Murica while launching fireworks from a kiddie pool. None of this was simulated. All of it was live. Zrulax, lead xenocognitive scientist and proud graduate of the neural lattice of Fendrix Prime, furrowed what passed for his brow, a translucent ridge that pulsed purple when confused. Today it was practically glowing. This is what they call a festival. They're calling it Black Friday, Neri chirped. She was young by Glorkakian standards, only 320 cycles old, and recently promoted from larval intern to junior anthropoanalyst. Her enthusiasm for human culture had not yet been crushed by bureaucracy. It's a ritual involving competitive capitalism and seasonal gratitude. Zrulax recoiled as two humans tackled each other over a toaster oven. One used a child as a bludgeon. Gratitude, he echoed. They expressed thankfulness by trampling each other for discounted bread warmers. That is correct, Neri confirmed, unfazed. Barbarians, muttered Gibthorn, the mission administrator. His voice was the hiss of dry leaves in an empty corridor. Everything about him, scale, suit, posture, screamed risk-averse middle management. We must act. Their planet's emissions alone violate 16 clauses of the Galactic Environmental Preservation Act. Not to mention their war crimes against cuisine, added Zrulax, watching in horror as a human dipped pizza into mayonnaise. The station's consensus leaned toward intervention. Humanity had been under passive observation for 70 Earth years, and the Council had grown increasingly disturbed. The species had discovered nuclear power, artificial intelligence, and deep-fried butter, all within the same century. Worse, they hadn't used these advancements responsibly. They used spacebound telescopes not for communication, but to photograph black holes like cosmic influencers. They built machines capable of cracking quantum encryption, and then used them to stream cat videos in higher resolution. Zrulax paced across the control deck, tentacles dragging slightly. They've weaponized irony. Half their population doesn't believe in science, the other half thinks it's a personality trait. And yet they thrive. Gibthorn sniffed. They're unpredictable, dangerous, and messy. The Council demands preemptive assimilation. Disable their satellites. Insert compliance nanites. We will civilize them. We tried that with the Garakans, Neri offered cautiously. Remember? They thought the nanites were seasoning. Before anyone could respond, the console lit up with a ping. An alien reconnaissance drone had just transmitted a live feed from Earth's surface. Zrulax activated it. The feed showed a man in a motorized shopping cart jousting with another man using a traffic cone as a lance. Onlookers cheered. Police officers took bets. Zrulax twitched. Deploy the field team. Stealth class. Land them somewhere strategic, somewhere central to their power structure. Gibthorn consulted a star map, tapped a blinking dot. Times Square. They appear to worship advertisement and chaos there. It's perfect. 3 hours later, a sleek infiltration pod descended silently through Earth's upper atmosphere. The field team aboard, for elite xenosociologists trained in over 120 sentient languages, prepared their camouflage suits. They landed without incident in a back alley between a hot dog stand and a man dressed as a bootleg SpongeBob. No one noticed. The aliens stepped into the chaos of Times Square, blinking at the neon. At first, it worked. Their adaptive morph suits mimic human clothing, jeans, hoodies, ironic slogan tees. They blended in, until the crowd surged. A stampede of holiday shoppers barreled down the street like a human tsunami. The alien team, unused to terrestrial gravity or American consumerism, were immediately swept into the tide. The smallest member, Reaped, was tackled by a woman dual-wielding Starbucks cups. Another was dragged into a dance-off. A third vanished into a Sephora and emerged an hour later transformed, emotionally shaken but contour-highlighted. When the team finally regrouped, Reap was missing a limb and held a soft pretzel instead. Zrulax watched the feed from orbit, flabbergasted. They're treating our elite operatives like background extras. Gibthorn's face darkened. Send reinforcements. The next wave of drones arrived over major human cities, equipped with suppression fields and mind-tempering rays calibrated for moderately aggressive herbivores. Humanity, of course, was neither moderate nor herbivorous. In Los Angeles, the drones were mistaken for a new marketing stunt. A TikTok influencer did a dance challenge in front of one, then climbed aboard. It exploded. In Kansas, a group of farmers shot down 3 drones with deer rifles and then roasted them on a spit. "Tastes like chicken," one was heard saying. By the end of the day, the drones were hacked, hijacked, or repurposed. One was seen delivering pizzas in New Jersey. The surveillance station went quiet. Zrulax, Gibthorn, and Neri stared at the screens, watching as humanity turned the invasion into content. "We were wrong," Zrulax whispered. "They're not primitive. They're immune. To logic, to fear," Gibthorn said, "to common sense. They turned our weapons into entertainment," Neri added. "They're fighting us the same way they fight themselves, loudly, creatively, and with reckless joy." Just then, a signal interrupted the feed, a sharp pulse, encrypted in every known frequency, accompanied by a video file. It was a human, elderly, with oversized glasses and a cardigan patterned with kittens. She sat in a cozy living room, flanked by doilies and ceramic owls. Her expression was patient, kind, and terrifyingly calm. "This is Earth," she began, smiling sweetly. "We've noticed your little pokes. First cute, now annoying. So this is your final warning." She leaned closer to the camera. "Stop attacking, or we stop pretending to be civilized." The signal cut. No trace of origin. No authentication. No explanation. The 3 aliens turned to one another, visibly rattled. "Was that their leader?" Neri asked. "I don't know," Zrulax said quietly. "But if it was—" He didn't finish the sentence. On screen, the woman leaned back in her chair as the video replayed silently. Her mug read, "World's okayest grandma." Somewhere in orbit, the Galactic Council began to panic. The Galactic Council didn't heed the warning. They chalked it up to a bluff, a last-ditch psychological tactic by an overstimulated pre-warp species. After all, Earth had no formal ambassador, no recognized seat in the Council, and, by all logic, no coordinated military that operated outside of arguing over budget cuts and breakfast cereal mascots. Besides, how dangerous could species be that held annual hot dog eating competitions on live television? So they escalated. Subtly, a wave of sleek, chrome drones, Model QN-77s, designed for psychological pacification, descended through Earth's atmosphere cloaked in invisibility fields. Their orders: disrupt digital infrastructure, introduce subliminal compliance programming into global media streams, and prepare Earth for quiet subjugation. None of them accounted for Kevin. Kevin Henderson was 14 years old, armed with a suspiciously powerful gaming rig, a diet of soda and instant noodles, and the social confidence of a damp sponge. He had also, through some arcane combination of internet rabbit holes, hacked into the military drone frequencies last summer just to see if he could. No one had noticed then. They did now. The QN-77s, thinking they were syncing to secure planetary channels, linked up with Kevin's experimental gaming server, Boom_VR. Within minutes, the entire swarm was locked into a multiplayer deathmatch designed by a teenager who thought subtlety was for losers and explosions were a love language. Over downtown Los Angeles, chaos bloomed. Drones streaked through the skies in erratic loops, firing neon-colored plasma blasts and screaming randomized soundbites like "Get REKT" and "Insert coin." Civilians, instead of panicking, started live streaming and placing bets. Someone launched a drone-themed EDM rave. Within hours, 3 of the drones were being used in a parkour contest broadcast on Twitch. In the orbital surveillance deck, Zrulax stared, jaw unhinged in disbelief. "They hijacked our tactical drones for sport." "They think this is a game," Gibthorn muttered, claws twitching. "A literal game." "They're not resisting," Neri noted with a hint of awe. "They're participating." Below, Kevin shouted into his mic, fingers flying across his keyboard. No, flank the plasma turret. You're not supposed to pet the drone, Todd." The mention of Todd brought a whole new set of problems. Todd was 17, chronically undersupervised, and believed that every problem could be solved with either duct tape or a quote from a 90s action movie. Upon witnessing the drone battle, he grabbed his toolkit and began building what he called an autonomous anti-invasion countermech, which was mostly an old washing machine fused with lawnmower blades and a flamethrower stolen from a 4th of July display. His mother, Captain Janet Steele, retired military and self-declared queen of Not in My Neighborhood, watched from the porch with a mug of coffee and thinly veiled pride. "You think this'll end with fireworks or prison time?" she asked her father, Grandpa Earl, who sat beside her on a lawn chair, sharpening a spork. "Hopefully both," he grunted. Janet sipped her coffee. "Good." By the time government agencies realized something alien was happening, America had already collectively decided it was either a viral marketing campaign, an underground reality show, or the long-awaited Area 51 sequel. Grandpa Earl had a different theory. As a decorated Korean War veteran with a deeply rooted suspicion of anything that floated without visible support or used too many syllables, he pegged it instantly. "Aliens," he told Janet matter-of-factly. "Same ones Truman warned us about. Probably here to steal our cows, or cable TV." "I'll shoot the cows myself before they get M," Janet replied, cocking her shotgun. Diplomacy's loaded. As news outlets scrambled to explain the increasingly absurd footage, drones spinning donuts over San Francisco, one caught trying to date a billboard in Tokyo, another crashed into the Eiffel Tower after playing Despacito, an underground network of conspiracy theorists sprang into action. They didn't panic. They live-streamed. "Welcome back to Truth Unplugged," said host Rex Muldoon, standing in front of an aluminum foil tent with a megaphone. "The Lizard Elite have returned, but this time they brought hardware. Let's go get probed, boys." Somewhere in Utah, a man in a tinfoil suit challenged a drone to single combat using a broomstick and a kazoo. The drone exploded. It was unclear whether it was a result of battle or shame. Back in orbit, the situation deteriorated into existential horror. "These creatures are not following protocol," Zrulax groaned. "They're not afraid. They're improvising." "They've adapted to chaos," Neri said. Maybe chaos is their natural state." "They're feral improvisers," Gibthorn added grimly. "They're jazz." "Stop saying that." The real tipping point came when the Galactic Council attempted to re-establish order by sending a diplomatic hologram to Earth's airwaves. It was a 12-foot-tall, shimmering ambassador with 6 arms, a dignified voice, and a glowing sash of peace sigils. He appeared simultaneously across all human broadcast channels and spoke in perfect English. "We are the Galactic Council. We come in authority. Cease your resistance or face disciplinary assimilation." The United Nations never got the message. Instead, the feed was intercepted by a home shopping network mid-broadcast. The ambassador's speech was edited and spliced to look like he was advertising a ceramic knife set. "This is not a threat," he said, waving 6 knives in dramatic arcs. "This is an opportunity. For just $39.99, you too can carve through the fabric of space-time." Orders flooded in. Thousands of humans thought it was a bit. Or a scam. Or both. The ambassador's feed was overwhelmed with PayPal requests. Zrulax began pacing again, his movement frenetic. "We sent our finest behavioral analysts. They were absorbed by a flash mob. Our drones were reprogrammed by adolescents. And now our ambassador is selling cutlery." Gibthorn's scales paled to a sickly yellow. "We must escalate. We'll use the emergency override." "You mean?" "Yes. Planet-wide broadcast. All channels. Raw galactic authority." They activated it. The signal blared through every human device. TVs, smartphones, watches, fridges, even a malfunctioning smart toilet in Des Moines. A sigil of galactic power spun on the screen. The voice boomed. "This is your final." But before the message could complete, it was overridden. The screen fizzled. The signal warped. And then a new figure appeared. It was the same elderly woman from before. Cardigan. Ceramic owl shelf. The infamous world's okayest grandma mug. She leaned into the camera with a tired smile and said, "You're still here? Sweetie, I thought I told you." She took a sip. "Stop attacking, or we stop pretending to be civilized." This time, she winked. The feed cut again. Silence returned. But it wasn't just silence. It was the kind that fell before a storm, sharp and alert. Zrulax stood frozen. Gibthorn had stopped breathing through 3 of his nostrils. Neri's eyes were wide. They had all felt it, something beneath the humor. Not rage, not bravado, something deeper. Restraint. They had come expecting resistance. What they got was a calm, smiling face saying, "We're holding back." And Earth, in all its absurdity, might not hold back much longer. The Galactic Council had never experienced panic before. Not truly. They had long mastered crisis simulation, fear index modulation, and the art of calm diplomatic phrasing like, "We regret to inform you of your annihilation." But none of that helped now. Not when Earth, a blue-green backwater they once flagged as culturally erratic but non-lethal, was steadily unraveling the galaxy's sense of superiority like a yarn ball in a kitten shelter. The council chamber was a cacophony of worried clicks, screeches, and liquid gurgles as representatives from 87 species debated wildly, their translator spheres failing to keep up with the sheer emotional chaos. Zrulax watched from aside, twitching. His once orderly mind was now a fog of confusion, caffeine analogs, and something dangerously close to admiration. "They hijacked our drones," he said aloud, more to himself than anyone. "They memed our ambassador into a shopping channel mascot. And now their elders threaten galactic war while offering cookies." "They haven't made a single official declaration," muttered Gibthorn, pacing tight circles. "No global treaty. No recognized military leader. No discernible chain of command. And yet they act in complete unity when threatened." "It's not unity," Neri said, eyes wide with revelation. "It's vibe-based resistance." Gibthorn stopped. "I beg your pardon." "Earth doesn't operate on structure," she explained. "It operates on energy. Spite. Improvised loyalty systems. You don't need orders when your next-door neighbor has already started welding flamethrowers to their minivan." Across the chamber, another broadcast clip was playing. A human teenager had discovered an ancient council transmission embedded in an old satellite signal, believed lost for centuries. The boy had thought it was part of a retro video game. Within hours, he reprogrammed it into a boss fight in a VR rhythm shooter. The result? Half the council's encrypted archives were now synced to a soundtrack of techno remixes and anime voice lines. Meanwhile, Grandpa Earl had become something of a minor celebrity. Footage of him arm wrestling a captured council scout was now galactically viral. In the video he shouted, "You call that a grip?" "My ex-wife shook harder when she signed the divorce papers," before slamming the scout through a picnic table. The footage had been edited dozens of times, some with explosions, others with country ballads, but the original remained the most terrifying. Earl hadn't even spilled his beer. The council tried to adapt. They sent cultural interpreters. The humans assumed they were auditioning for reality TV. They sent peace envoys. The humans invited them to a barbecue cook-off in Texas where they were forced to judge brisket blindfolded. One envoy described it as a religious experience and defected. He now ran a food truck in Austin. Desperation grew. Analysts combed through centuries of intercepted Earth signals, hoping to decipher a pattern. They found something worse. Zrulax stood before the council now, voice low. "We have evidence humans achieved faster-than-light capabilities in 1969. There was stunned silence. "Then why haven't they used them?" a representative buzzed. "They lost the paperwork," Zrulax said flatly. "NASA misplaced the drive schematics between budget cycles and reruns of Gilligan's Island." "Surely they rediscovered it," said another voice. "They did," Zrulax continued, "but repurposed it to deliver pizza to Antarctica in under 6 minutes. A local startup beat NASA to implementation." The chamber nearly imploded from collective mental whiplash. "And that's not the worst of it," he added, pulling up an audio clip. The sound began as static. Then came a burst of distorted synth music. And finally a human voice, cheerful and utterly without context. "Welcome to the Time Tunnel Hotline. You've reached the year 1987. Please hang tight while we recalibrate your DeLorean." What is this?" whispered the delegate from SYXXL Prime. "We believe Earth invented time travel, and then abandoned it, because they didn't like the fashion trends of the 70s. Neri could no longer tell whether she was terrified or inspired. "They have tech that defies causality, and they use it for cosplay and pizza." Zrulax nodded. "The only constant is their inconsistency. They've weaponized the absurd." That was when the council voted. Not to retaliate, not to annihilate, but to de-escalate. They would send one final delegation, face-to-face this time, to formally offer Earth a seat on the Galactic Council. The humans predictably did not notice. The delegation ship landed on a Texas cattle ranch, believing it to be a neutral ground. Instead, they were greeted by Captain Janet Steele, who had taken over the property after her cousin accidentally detonated a grain silo with a DIY rocket engine. Janet met the aliens in full combat fatigues, sipping from a mug that read, "Tired moms make bad decisions." Todd stood nearby, helmeted, wielding a rail gun made from copper wire, a microwave, and unlicensed ambition. Grandpa Earl leaned against a tractor, chewing a toothpick. The lead delegate stepped forward, shimmering with bioluminescent dignity. "We come in peace." Janet raised a hand. "Skip the speech, Spock. What do you want?" "To offer Earth a seat among the stars." Todd blinked. "Like in a council? With aliens and votes and laser rules?" "Yes." "What's the catch?" "You promised not to destroy the galaxy," the delegate said quickly. "Seems fair," Earl grunted. "What's in it for us?" "Access to hyperlight travel. Unlimited energy. Cultural exchange." Janet tilted her head. "Will it interfere with my Friday night poker group?" "No." "Fine." The agreement was made in a barn using barbecue sauce fingerprints and a cow as a witness. The council returned home, dazed. Earth had neither conquered nor surrendered. It had simply absorbed them. Back aboard Surveillance Station Delta, X0-99, Zrulax stood once more before the central display. The Earth spun slowly, oblivious to the chaos it had wrought. "They never tried to be part of the galaxy," he murmured. "They just kept being themselves until the galaxy bent around them." Neri smiled genuinely. "Maybe that's their secret. They don't care what the universe thinks of them. They just live it, loud and weird." Gibthorne, to his credit, no longer objected. He was watching human cartoons now, sipping something that strongly resembled Mountain Dew. "I think I get it. They're not advanced. They're not primitive. They're just Earth." And somewhere deep within that spinning chaos ball of contradictory brilliance, a grandma with a cardigan reactivated her smart toaster, ready to issue Earth's final message once more if needed. They hadn't started the fight. But if it continued, they were more than ready to end it with glitter, duct tape, and disproportionately aggressive hospitality. The Galactic Council's final gambit was a mistake. They had hoped that an overwhelming show of force would settle the matter. Not a direct attack, no, even the most aggressive factions hesitated now, but something symbolic. Something that screamed power without pulling the trigger. So they destroyed Earth's moon. A focused gravity pulse cannon vaporized the top quarter of Luna at precisely 3:07 Universal Time Coordinated. Billions on Earth watched in stunned silence as tides shuddered, satellites veered off course, and a cloud of silver-gray ash lit up the night. The Council's message was clear. This is what happens when you refuse to behave. But Earth didn't weep. It didn't panic. It didn't even blink. In a Colorado bunker carved into a mountain shaped like a middle finger, Captain Janet Steele received the news over her scratched-up tablet while brewing her morning coffee. Her jaw tightened. Her left eye twitched once, then twice. She stared at the live feed of a bleeding moon with a slow-burning fury. Across the room, Todd stood frozen, a wrench in one hand and a Twinkie in the other. They really did it. Grandpa Earl turned from the wall where he'd been carving a checklist into a steel plate. He crossed out the last line, waited patiently, and muttered, "Guess we're doing this." Janet set her mug down, grabbed her dusty old comlink, and clicked it on. "All units," she said, voice steady. "Activate Project Beagle." In an underground vault beneath Cheyenne Mountain, a dome-shaped machine the size of a football stadium hummed to life. Officially, Beagle stood for Ballistic Emergency Arsenal for galactic-level engagement. Unofficially, it was a spite-powered orbital platform designed by a drunken think tank of retired engineers, paranoid veterans, and meme lords with a grudge against the universe. Its primary weapon ran on kinetic energy, solar overcharge, and bad attitude. Its interface was controlled entirely by a cranky AI named Debbie, who communicated exclusively in passive-aggressive post-it notes and 80s movie quotes. Within 12 minutes, Beagle locked onto the Galactic Council's flagship, the Venerance Eternal, currently orbiting near Jupiter. By 13 minutes, the platform had uploaded a battle playlist that included AC/DC, Mozart, and 3 tracks labeled only as Don't Ask Todd. At minute 15, Earth sent its reply. A beam of compressed atmospheric fury, part railgun, part sarcasm, lashed out of orbit and sliced the Council vessel cleanly in two. No warnings. No monologues. Just consequence. The galaxy held its breath. Council delegates screamed into their translators, demanded retaliation, calculated probabilities. But none of them moved. Because that's when Earth followed up with a broadcast, uncoded, unfiltered, and unmistakable. Grandma Irma sat once again in her knitted cardigan, framed by soft lighting, a mug of cocoa in hand. Behind her, the destroyed moon hovered like a ghost. She leaned forward, and this time, her voice held no hint of mischief. "We warned you." She took a sip. You poke the bear, you lose a hand. You kick the dog, you get bitten. And if you shoot our moon. She smiled sweetly, almost sadly. We stopped pretending. The signal cut out. But across the galaxy, it echoed. Neri, watching from Delta, X0-99, clutched her datapad like a lifeline. They didn't just retaliate. They calculated it. They knew exactly how much damage to inflict. Enough to paralyze us, not destroy us. Zrulax nodded slowly, his voice hollow. They've been pretending all this time. Playing the fool. Acting disorganized. We thought they were chaos incarnate. But that chaos was armor. Gibtharn sat down for the first time in days, tail limp. They could have burned us down from the start. They still could, Neri added. But they didn't. The council convened again. Quietly. Without the usual pomp and self-importance. This time, Earth wasn't a problem to be managed. It was a power to be respected. Or feared. The council voted, unanimously, to recognize Earth as a sovereign hyper-civilized species and grant it full membership. No conditions. No oversight. But Earth declined. The reply came via a carrier pigeon strapped with a GPS chip and an iPod Nano. The message was a single sentence, scribbled in Sharpie. We'll call you when we're bored. No signature. No coordinates. Just the overwhelming implication that Earth had finally stood up and wasn't sitting down again. Back on Earth, things mostly went back to normal. Sort of. Janet went back to her porch and her coffee. Todd built a skateboarding exosuit out of leftover parts from Beagle. Grandpa Earl opened an interstellar-themed bar called the Arm Bar, where patrons got free drinks if they could beat him in a staring contest. Kevin became an overnight legend in hacker circles and was rumored to be working with the AI Debbie on a project simply titled Plan B, just in case. The galaxy watched Earth with nervous reverence. Diplomatic envoys approached carefully, bearing offerings of trade, treaties, and pie charts. Earth smiled, nodded, and ignored most of them. Humanity had learned a lesson of its own, that pretending to be less dangerous kept them safe, until it didn't. Now the mask was off. Earth wasn't a threat because it loved violence. It was a threat because it excelled at restraint. The same people who built nukes for fun, who survived each other for centuries, who invented lawn darts and used them near children, had chosen peace every time. But that was a choice. The galaxy now understood what Earth had always known. Peace without teeth is surrender, and kindness without power is just begging. Humanity had never been powerless. It had simply been polite. Until the moon. Zrulax filed his final report with trembling digits. Earth's cultural structure is not linear, not hierarchical. It is an ecosystem of weirdness, where the absurd meets the genius in a fistfight over barbecue sauce. Do not antagonize this species. Do not underestimate this species. Above all, do not interrupt their coffee. He paused. And for the love of the stars, do not touch their moon again. Somewhere in deep space, a lonely probe drifted past the wreckage of the Venerants Eternal. A blinking message repeated every few minutes in dozens of languages. This is Earth. We were nice. You didn't like that. So now here we are. Welcome to diplomacy. And far below, Grandma Oma folded a new sweater, humming softly as a freshly repaired toaster beeped in agreement.